Thank you to Wix for sponsoring this video. Wix is a super intuitive way to make a very professional website. Check out the link in the description if you want to try it out for yourself. Hey everybody, it's LavenderTowne. And yeah, you read that right. I'm turning memes into fine art paintings. Honestly, this is probably going to age this video terribly, but I wanted to start out with a nice fresh meme, so Baby Yoda seemed like a perfect pick. Now, I honestly haven't watched The Mandalorian, so my only interaction or knowledge about Baby Yoda is through its meme power, which is kind of perfect for this video. And as for the art style / era that I'm trying to emulate here, I'm going for the Renaissance period for one reason and one reason only. Because of the ugly babies. I don't know if you guys know this. This was sort of a meme in the art community, but if you aren't deeply in the art history world, you may not know that babies in Renaissance paintings are beyond ugly. They're horrifying. So many of them look like either tiny little men, these total gremlins, or they're all like lumpy like mashed potatoes. I mean, I'm sure that babies sometimes look this way, but it's odd to see such an unflattering portraiture of the wee things, but it's perfect for my purposes here because Baby Yoda is basically like a wrinkly little alien, and that's what the babies in Renaissance paintings look like too, so it gave me a lot to work with. It also helps that Baby Yoda is basically just wearing like a monk's robe, it seems like, lots of drapery, which people from a lot of old eras really like to paint. Painters just love that drapery, so I had a lot to work with. Basically, what I wanted to do first was to just sample the colors out of Renaissance paintings so that I didn't go too bright. Now, pigmentation was hard to come by back in the day, even as, pretty recently actually, so I tried not to go too digitally bright with any of the colors, and sampling definitely helped with that. He ended up being a little bit on the grayer side, but luckily there were a few greens that I could pull from to give him a bit more of that Yoda green look. I also tried to sort of emulate the style of background, which tended to be a little less detailed than some of the eras that would come to follow, and were usually fairly naturalistic, which works just fine, again, because Yoda is often seen in a planet, a nature scene, not a skyscraper or anything, so it wasn't really conflicting with the inspirations from the Renaissance paintings, which is good. I honestly found this to be extremely enjoyable and a very good start. I honestly struggled the most with just making Yoda ugly enough. I think he's way cuter than any of the babies, which was not my intention at all. I tried to really wrinkle up his smooth little dome as much as I could, and I ended up giving him these scary Skeletor hands because, well, it's basically a reference to one of my reference pictures where this woman is holding her baby and her hands literally look like little spindly mannequin hands. I don't know what happened there. Honestly, I have never identified more with Renaissance painters than I did when I was actually looking close at these. Between the super messed up baby faces and this totally whack hand, I really felt like I understood them on a whole new level. The next meme I'm going to paint is a bit more complicated, but it is one of my most beloved memes of all time, and it immediately reminded me of the structure of an actual fine art painting. There's something about the strong gesture from the woman in the front, and the fact that each character in the scene is kind of looking in different directions, and there's all this strong sort of gestures going in different places that kind of reminded me more of strongly dramatic Baroque art. And so I based this meme off of the style of Caravaggio, who is not really a Renaissance painter, but a bit later than that. He's also a murderer. Look it up, it's interesting. Imagine being so good at art that you can get away with murder, literally. So basically I did the color sampling thing again, and I knew this was going to be quite a bit more difficult because Caravaggio was a fan of more realism and I didn't have much to go on. I don't really do a lot of painting, and I definitely don't paint a lot of realism, but I did do my best. I wanted to base the face off of Caravaggio's Medusa. Historically, he was not the greatest at showing strong emotion on women. It seemed like, just based on some of his paintings like Judith beheading Holofernes, that's a really grotesque, intense painting, and it got criticism back in the day, and certainly modernly, more recently, because Judith is literally barely making an expression at all while she's actively sawing off a living man's head, which seems like a moment for perhaps an expression to be maybe a bit more intense than that. So because the woman in the original photo is looking very, very intense, I wanted to base it off of the beheading of Medusa, which seems to be one of his strongest sort of emotional portraits, as she's literally beheaded. He had kind of a fascination with beheading, I just realized. So I tried to capture the energy of the scene. I couldn't actually make the sort of woman in the front the same blonde color that she is in the original picture, just because I thought it looked too fake and modern. So I sort of dulled those colors down. I based it off of the lightest haired woman in the crowd scene painting that Caravaggio had, that I was referencing. And I also tried to blend the two pictures together. It made it look kind of weird because it kind of looks like the cat is huge now, but I sort of love it. He's like this big portly jughead cat. And I had the woman sitting beside her, looking at her with concern. I feel like that helps guide the eye into a sort of circle. When you're following the eyes of all the characters, they sort of go in a triangle between each other. Ideally, I would have liked to have a lot more sort of characters going on. These like busy crowd scenes where like a million things are going on and everyone has sort of their own little life in the painting is one of the things that this style of painting was most famous for. But I did my best. I think I really love it, even though it's not the best thing I've ever painted. It was really, really fun to do. Next up is what I would consider another iconic classic. Now this is Surprise Pikachu, and this one I kind of immediately knew what direction I wanted to go. There's one painter who's particularly famous for capturing golden light, and that painter is Vermeer. Now I thought that Vermeer, and as particularly his most famous painting, The Girl with the Pearl Earring, would be perfect as a reference for this painting. I also had one more peasant painting in the corner to help me with some other color choices. And basically I just wanted to take this Surprise Pikachu and make it as moody and rendered and dark and sort of atmospheric as The Girl with the Pearl Earring, which is a perfectly normal goal to set if you're making a YouTube video in like a day. I mean, it's only one of the most famous paintings of all time. So the first thing I tried to do was to just sort of figure out how I was going to make the light go. Obviously the Girl with the Pearl Earring has a sort of like upward, very strong key light on one side of the character's face, and I decided to just directly copy that because I thought it would be the easiest, and I just thought it would have more of the same energy. And if you look at the peasant painting underneath it, it does seem like Vermeer had a certain proclivity for that type of light. It's a pretty flattering light, so I would understand why. I wanted this to look really soft and make Pikachu look like almost uncomfortably real. I'm a little late to the party with Detective Pikachu being out for like a year now, but I really wanted it to look like a beautiful fine art painting that maybe within the canon of the Pokemon universe might actually exist somewhere. So the first thing I wanted to do was block out that background and make it completely black. I think that's one of the things that's so striking about Vermeer is he was not afraid to make really, really dark shadows and backgrounds and things like that. Whereas a lot of other painters, I feel like, tried to keep things a little bit more in the mid-tone range and not quite so strong. So I tried to emulate that as well. And then gradually I was just trying to make it look more and more painterly from those like initial kind of digital cutouts that I worked with at the start. I really loved blending the blush in over and over again. I did it like 4 or 5 times, just trying to get it kind of perfect. It was really satisfying. I was actually quite worried about the black background because it was looking really digitally, so I added over top of it a canvas and a grain texture that I had in my Kyle T. Webster brush pack, and I just tried to use a couple different like overlay methods trying to make it look a bit more natural and not to cut into my darks quite so aggressively. And after a bit of fiddling, I do feel like it made it look a little better, but it was kind of a struggle getting that canvas texture without losing all the darks. I also needed to edit the edges to make it not so clearly like digital brushes, and here is the final piece. I kind of, again, really love it for some reason, even though I know it's not the best thing I've ever drawn. I hope you guys had a fun time with this video. I have a lot more memes I would like to paint, so feel free to suggest any ones that you want to see in the comments, and I hope you had a wonderful holiday season, whatever holiday you're celebrating, or even if you don't particularly like the holidays around this time, I hope you're doing well. I'll see you in the next one. Thank you again to Wix for continuing to support the channel and sponsoring this video. Wix has the tools built in to do basically whatever you could possibly use a website for, whether you're selling stuff professionally or if you're just showcasing your art. There are a million ways to customize it to what you want, tons of templates to start with, and basically everything is just drag and drop customizable. It's super intuitive, it takes almost no time to learn, and before you know it, you have something really beautiful you can be proud of. It's also really easy to integrate things like YouTube videos, which I find incredibly nice and modern of them. I really don't like when I'm trying to work with something and it doesn't play nice with websites that I really need to use, and honestly that's never been a problem with Wix, which is something I really appreciate. Check the link in the description if you want to try making your own website, and thank you again to Wix. Thank you so much to my patrons, including Spell a Story, Braggy, Kalpompon, Shizzle Lion, Clockwork Construct, Dr. Casket, Ilaria Louie, Elizabeth Album, Greer the Animator, Hachiubi, Yara Famoso, Imagine Creations, Even Rodriguez, JJJ, Joseph Copel, Blah Blah Blah, Micah Dactyl, Mr. Dr. Pants, Nora Cornelison, Ollie, Rosie Wordlock, Sergeant Pendulum, Some Mediocre Artist, The Artsy Moose, Tom David Johansson, Yaboyst, and Zoe Stardust.